Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at three very distinct card sets that Topps made for basketball in the 1990s. And I'm combining these three together here because they really don't fit with anything else. I mean, quite literally. So I'm going to be looking at 1992-93 Topps archives. I'm going to be looking at 1994-95 Topps embossed, and then 1998 Topps golden greats. And to start off with archives, I got to step way back because Topps had made two very distinct runs at making basketball cards. Once in the 50s, and then they made a good run from the end of the 60s all the way through the 70s into the early 1980s. And by 1981-82, they just didn't feel that there was enough market for basketball to continue. Now, to be fair to them, the basketball industry was basically at its cellar. And the 1980s was a great time for the whole league to just build up and become really what we know it to be today. Now, Michael Jordan basically made basketball what it is. But when Michael came in, the league was already surging really well with some great teams and some great personalities. So they had all the pieces that they needed. But they had to make an amazing transformation in the early 1980s, and Topps just wasn't ready to hang around for that. So they left the market wide open, and Star made a few sets, and then Fleer came in and started the modern basketball era. By the time that Topps got around to getting back into the league, a lot had changed. Fleer was the de facto card set for the basketball market, although they were waning quite a bit because NBA Hoops and Skybox had come in and really taken the whole market by storm. And then Upper Deck had even jumped in 91-92, and when Upper Deck jumped in, they went in full. Upper Deck got a lot of shtick, and rightfully so, for the fact that they threw a lot of money at their problems. When they came in, they were swinging for the fences, and they were the rich kids who were taking all of the toys from the regular kids. That's the way we all felt. It's really the way that it worked. And so that meant that when they came in, they really took over. And so Topps was definitely the odd man out, which was weird for them because they were the definition of every single card market. It's just that in basketball, they now had to earn their keep, and they had to do it in a rapidly growing market, which meant that they were kind of buried. In 1991-92, there were four card sets: Fleer, Hoops, Skybox, and Upper Deck. And by 1992-93, you had the addition of Ultra with Fleer. And so Topps had to come into a market that was expanding rapidly, and it had to make a presence. And it really had to make a big impact. The 92-93 Topps card set was very popular because of the gold foil parallel. So they had that going for them, and it was popular. And Stadium Club, they also came in with that, and that was a well-received set. But Stadium Club had something interesting where on the card backs, they actually have the Topps rookie card for every player. Now, in terms of baseball, hockey, football, hey, no problem. They've got those. But in basketball, except for players like Moses Malone, anybody from the 82-83 year forward, they had no Topps rookie card. So that meant that every player like Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan, David Robinson, these guys, their rookie cards for Topps was 92-93. That didn't make any sense. And that is the way that all of those Stadium Club's cards work. Now, they usually use the Stadium Club card for their image simply because it looked more like a photo. So that worked better for those cards, but it did highlight the fact that Topps had missed out on such a big era, and they wanted to do something about that. So they decided to fall back on an idea that they had used in baseball, which was their archive set. And in baseball, they basically reprinted an old card set. Pretty simple, that's what archive was. But in basketball, instead of going and reprinting the 69-70 cards, which would have been a brilliant idea, I wish they'd done that, but setting that aside, instead of doing that, they decided to go and make basically a retro set where they would go back and make those rookie cards that they never made. And that was a brilliant move. It was a phenomenal idea. And aside from the fact that they unfortunately used all the baseball card designs, just setting that aside, it created a very unique card set that gave us a combination of basketball nostalgia with the modern day. So it was a brilliant idea across the board. So the card set has players who were still in the league here in the 91-92 year, the actual playing year, And they were the players from that would have had a rookie card in the 82-83 set all the way through the 91-92 set. So you get to see the basketball players in these different card designs. Now the card stock is current, so these are thin card stocks, highly glossed, so they do read very much differently, and more significantly than that, the card backs are all this consistent card back. So there is one card back style for all of the player cards. And that means that you don't get the variety of the card backs, which, let's face it, would have been really distracting. I'm glad that they didn't do that. But the card backs are treated like rookie cards. So when you look on the card back, they have the statistics for college, and then they have the first year statistics. So for players like Michael Jordan, that's no problem. A player like John Stockton, unfortunately, he wasn't given much to do in his rookie season, which is why he didn't have a rookie card with Fleer until quite a ways in. So the statistics are pretty meager. But it's kind of cool because it works as a one-year checkup for everybody to look and see how these players started out, and then you get an idea, just because of our own knowledge of where the players ended up, how much they evolved, or who started off really fast, who took some time to grow out. But the cards were designed to be basically rookie cards, where on the card back it's just one set. They're all the same. I love that idea. I wish they had gone with a better card design, but great idea. But those card fronts, they are all different. And the set was built so that it is incremental. So the earlier set is at the beginning, and then the latest set is at the end. So you just work your way through all of the different years of the 80s and into the early 90s. So it's not like everything's all haphazard. It actually is structured in a way that really does work. So they hit in every way that they possibly could, including they used early pictures of the players. So this is, if not the rookie season, it's from early in their career. So these do look like rookie cards for every single player. So you got to love it. Again, some of the card designs are pretty clunky. So you got the 82, 83, well, you got the 82 style, the 83, 84, 85, 86. You've got each one of the years. And some of them do look really good, some of them not so much. But I think, especially with the high gloss, these basketball cards do tend to look a lot better than the baseball equivalents. But they started the set off not with cards like this, but they started the set off with 11 cards looking at the number one draft pick from each year. So, and fortunately, there were no Candymans in this era. In the 1980s, all the number one picks were solid picks. So all of these guys, you actually know who they are in every single case, every single player. You know who the player is. So that means that this is a series of not necessarily all-stars, but at least it's not who is that. So it's really cool to start off with these different card designs. These are full bleed cards, a really good design overall. But these cards have something that's really special in terms of they have holofoil, not a full-blown rainbow holofoil, but they have holofoil on this card. I think this is the first time holofoil was ever used on a card. We'd had holograms, but not a holofoil. And the holofoil effect was a really impressive element to this card. So it's pretty cutting edge. But also, if you flip it over, they actually have the draft results for the first round of every single year included. So on the front, you have who the first draft pick was. On the card back, you have the whole first year, or you have the full first round of that year. So you can see who is selected, what names you've never heard of. Great idea. And in this time before the internet, this was great because this gave you the ability to see what every single draft was. But even in this era of too much information, we have a problem of having too much information, which means there's a lot of knowledge we never bothered to think of. And cards like this give us the ability to look in and learn something we never would have thought of. But oftentimes when you look at it, you're excited to learn about what is in there. And that's what these cards do. It gives us this neat little look at each and every draft, or the first round of each draft through the 80s and the early 90s. And the card set ends with 2 checklists. So it's a 150 card set. The last 2 cards are a checklist. And that's significant because in packs, these cards came with no parallel, but they did come with a few inserts, which I'll get to in a minute. But Topps also sold a complete set of the entire set with a gold stamp on it. And the gold stamp has a little medallion of a basketball in relief, but also underneath it, it says archives. Also, the player name, doesn't matter which style, the player name also has a gold foil in each case. So that's what's distinctive about them. But early on, Topps liked to replace their checklist. For parallels, they like to replace the checklist with player cards. And in this case, they replaced one of the checklists with a Rumeal Robinson, 1990 card design. I'm not sure why they didn't make a regular Rumeal Robinson card, or why they did this in this way, but they did. So you get a real Rumeal Robinson card. But the other one is a brilliant move, because this card set was intended to give rookie cards to all the veterans who weren't going to have rookie cards in 1992. This was not intended for actual rookie cards. It was intended for basically the inspiration of what old rookie cards would have been like. These are completely retro cards. But that doesn't necessarily apply to the first 11 cards in the set. The number one draft pick cards, that is something that kind of stands alone. And so what they did was, they did for one of the two checklists, they created a number one draft pick card for Shaquille O'Neal, who was the 1992 first draft pick. It's a brilliant move. Of course, he would fit with these other players. So that's the other card that is unique to the gold set. And the gold set only came as a gold set. So you had in packs, you had the regular cards, and then in a complete set form, you had the gold set. But like I said, in the packs, they do have an insert set, which is, like Stadium Club, the master photos. And these are the master photos of the number one draft pick cards, specifically the ones in packs. So it's the 11 cards, and then they also have kind of like a header card, which has all 11 of the cards, the images of the cards on it in a smaller pattern. So it came, you could get those in the packs and send them in, and if you send in the card, you get back 3 players. The players are specified on the back. And I have to note something. One of the redemption cards that I have shows all of the different cards. As I was preparing for this, I looked on the back and it said that that was only redeemable for LJ and for Derek Coleman, just for those 2 players. But the thing is that this came in the set that I have of actual master photos, actually came with all 12 cards, the 11 individual player cards, and then the collection as well, which I think did come from this. So I'm a little confused by that. That's something I'd like to clear out at some point. But for the most part, the way that it worked was you sent them in, and in most cases you got just back 3 players for each one of the redemption cards. The redemption cards are normal card size, everything's just shrunk down. You get back a much larger image, or a much larger card where the image inside is full scale with some extra room around the outside. And just like with Stadium Club, that's how it came in groups of 3, or there was also another way that they came with a whole complete set form. So you can get them either way. But that was what they did for Topps Archive. They didn't really have to do anything else. It was just an interesting little sideshow kind of set to celebrate Topps coming back in, and it was a successful move. Beautiful set, very fun, very, very, very unique. Likewise, a couple of years later, Topps had started getting into making some interesting card sets where they just come up with a crazy idea and do a whole card set that might be a one and done. Maybe it would carry on, maybe not. Finest started out that way. Well, in 1994-95, they did a Topps Embossed set. They also did one for baseball as well, so they did both sports. But here in basketball, the way that the cards, the whole point of embossing is embossing is where you create relief. Normally what you do is you have a surface, you push up, so the top gets contours. On the bottom, you get a concave surface, so it's a pit. And the way that Action Packed did it was they wrapped cards around so you never saw the back. When Fleer would do it, they'd go ahead and they would leave the back exposed, which makes the opposite side of the card, where the relief is not part of the image, it makes it kind of tough to read. Well, in Topps' case, they decided instead of taking a thin cardstock and pushing it out, they would use a minting technique, which is you take a really thick card and you stamp it from both ends. So when you do that, the stamp creates relief that's unique to either side, and there's so much thickness that all of the compression just gets kind of wedged in there. That means that with these cards, they don't have as much relief as Action Packed, but they have a contour on one side and a whole different contour on the back, so that the cards, the way that they are experienced, is everything is correct, which is a really neat effect. With the basketball set, they had a thin border around the outside. It's a basketball print where you have orange with the grips, and then you have the black lines in between, and then inside you have a player image, and you also have the player name in gold foil. On the card back, they have a horizontal card with not much information. I mean, this really wasn't intended for you to learn much about these players. This was just another thing to collect, which was a very mid-90s kind of thing. But what was really notable about these cards is that they came one per pack with a gold parallel. And the gold parallel, they replaced all of the orange in the border with gold foil. So the black remained, but the gold foil is where all the orange was. And then on the inside, the player has a gold foil tint to him, and the background doesn't. So it's a very lively card. It's not a good looking card, but it's a fun card to collect in parallel. That being said, they do have another card design with this set. So the main cards are basically like this, but they also have in here, this was during the time that Michael Jordan had retired. And while he was gone, the Houston Rockets took advantage of that to go win a couple of championships. So they were the league champions, and their cards in the set were done in a different way, where the whole card, everything except for the player, is gone, and it's replaced with solid silver with etching with all of these different framing effects, making the card super lively. But what's really fun about these cards is the gold parallel. These are impressive cards. They're beautiful, they're rich, they're vibrant, they're exciting. And on top of that, it's not just the Houston Rockets. The rookie cards were done in the same way, which means these are, while the main cards in the card set are okay to good, the rookies here are among the best rookie cards for this rookie class. And they had some good sets, including Emotion. So really a high level for these cards, but they are beautiful cards for a very good rookie class. So these were a lot of fun. But this was also 1994-95 when Michael Jordan was coming back. And so for a number of sets, they threw a Michael Jordan card in at the end. And they did so here too. So card number 121, that's Michael Jordan thrown in the back. One of the better looking cards for him here in this year when he returned. There's nothing else to say about it. It was about as simple of a set as possible. And that leaves me to only one other set that really is a true stranded affair in the 1990s for Topps, and that is Topps Golden Greats. This is a very small set. It's just 18 cards, and it's all of classic players, legends. Every single one of these cards is lenticular, which means that it is a motion card, and they packed a surprisingly large amount of video footage for each player. The cards are pretty cool. These are not see-through, so these are ones where you don't have to have backlighting. And the card back has a little bit of a description, has a big image. I love the fact that in the image, they actually have a silhouette or a halo around the player so you can follow the player. In the case of Bob Cousy, he's the only person in frame, so it doesn't matter. But in other cases, the player, it helps to figure out who the player is in all the action. So really smart move that they made. But these cards came in boxes of 18, so it's an 18 card set, and if you got a complete box, it was said to have a complete set in every case. But 1 out of every 36 of these packs has a die cut version, so that means that every 2 sets that you get, one of those cards will be die cut. And the die cut is just scalloped around the outside. They are pretty tough to find. Believe me, they're pretty tough to find. But that is just about everything to say about this, except for the fact that you're going to run into a number of these cards that are actually done also with a pre-production promo version, where the card back is replaced by a solid white back with a sticker that says pre-production. So a few of them can be found in that way, but for the most part, very simple set, very straightforward, just kind of thrown out there, and you'll probably run into it at some point. This lets you know what that is. But like I said, all 3 of these sets are very, very distinctive, and they don't go with anything else. They only stand on their own, and so I've collected them together so we can look at each one of them. Kind of a fun exploration to do. There's a surprisingly large amount to talk about with all of these very simple sets, And I hope that it entertained you, that you learned what you need to know. Any questions, by all means, ask me. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out my other videos. Thank you very much for watching.